everybody, DeathsStalker here. So, last weekend we had the first MotoGP race of 2020. And what happened? Well, lots. So the first thing that happened is a couple of days before the actual race, they had a practice session for all the racers so they could sort of like shake the cobwebs off and have the teams, you know, confirm some testing stuff, which pretty much everyone was doing fine. The one issue that everyone was noticing was that they're racing at Jerez, and normally they race in I believe it's like May, very early part of May, and this time it's July, and it's mid-July, and it is hot. The temperatures were well into the 40s. You know, the actual humidity was pretty high, and there was lots of sun and very little break from the weather, so it was a brutal time. The racers themselves, they're all fit and really good shape, and you know, most of them can handle the heat pretty well. But it was interesting to see the Ducati pit. If I can find a picture, there was Andrea Devosio and Danina Bertucci that were sitting in kiddie pools filled with ice to try to cool themselves down. And there was more than one team that was actually doing that. So, on to the actual race weekend. So this is an unusual season upcoming. If you saw my other video about the back-to-back races, they're racing at Jerez this last weekend, and when this video is recorded, it's the Tuesday after. They're also going to be racing again this upcoming weekend at Jerez. It's last week was a Spanish Grand Prix. I can't remember what the name is for this one. They, instead of calling it Spanish Grand Prix 2, they give it a different name. I have no opinion one way or the other on that. So qualifying pretty much went, you know, like a normal Grand Prix race. Fabio Quartararo got his pole again, like he did last year at the race, and hopefully he would do really well. Last year he had the shift linkage brake, so he actually did not finish the race when you know, he was out in front. So this season, this year, you know, the Yamahas were of Fabio and Maverick were first and second, and Marc Marquez was third. And qualifying was pretty crazy. Alex Rins had couldn't make qualifying 1, so he qualified in qualifying 2, had a really good time, and was out in qualifying, and Jack Miller had crashed, and as Rins was coming around the corner, he lost the front end, tried to save it, but then he realized he wasn't going to be able to make the corner and ran off the track at a high speed, and he ended up having a very bad crash trying to avoid Jack's bike, and he dislocated his shoulder, which meant he missed the race. And it was unfortunate because Rins looked like he was him and the bike were both set up pretty good for this season. Everyone else, you know, it's I believe it was the top 14 or 15 racers were all within under a second, so qualifying was actually pretty tight, and it looked like the racing was going to be really good. Now, the one thing people were all concerned with was that in the afternoon sessions, when it was closest to what the actual race time was going to be, Marc Marquez was way faster than everyone else. His race pace, which is the pace you can run consistently on race setup, was I believe 2/10 faster than everybody else, which was not boding well for the race. So the race started. Yamaha has a new hole shot device to help with starts, which Maverick Vinales was using, and he was first into the first turn with Marc Marquez and several other racers right behind him. Fabio didn't have as good a start, and he sort of went backwards a bit, but he was slowly pulling himself pretty quick to the front. Maverick in the first lap was having some pretty big moments. Like, and you could actually, if you were watching the race, you could actually see it quite clearly where he lost the front a couple times, and he was obviously having problems. He was running a soft front tire where everyone else was running the hard, and Mark decided he wasn't going fast enough for him, so he passed him and got in front and was trying to break away. I don't think it was a lap or two later, in turn 4, which is one of the fastest corners of the track, Mark's tire folded mid-corner and he lost the front end. So the front of the bike was on the ground, the wheel was cocked. I'm going to put a link in here from the MotoGP video. You really should follow MotoGP on YouTube because they have all these sort of videos up there. But I'm going to put the link in my description for that. And he managed to pick the bike up with his elbow and shoulder, rode off the track into the gravel at well over 120, 130 kilometers an hour, and rode the bike like a bucking bronco through the gravel and got back on the track in 18th spot. It was, you know, everyone said that was the save of the century. That was like mind-boggling. And he basically got back on the track, took like maybe a bit of a straightaway to sort it out, and put his head down and just went for it. And we basically witnessed probably the most absolutely stunningly amazing race run to the lead in history. While Mark was trying to fight his way back to the front, Fabio eventually got past Maverick and basically got in front, and he was comfortable like 5 or 6 seconds ahead of everyone else. So it was Fabio looked like he's well on his way to his first win. Maverick was having some problems, and he ended up getting caught up by the Ducatis, and he had to sort of like slow his pace down a bit to get his tires to cool off so he could actually get the grip back. And meanwhile, Mark was cutting through the field. Now the scary part was Mark was running almost a half a second a lap faster than everybody else, and because he had run off at the very beginning of the race, it was looking like he actually was going to be catching the leaders before the race was over. Now that didn't happen because, you know, once you get closer to the front guys, it takes longer and longer to get past them. And he had a few battles, but he got himself up into 3rd place, and he was right behind Maverick Vinales. Now Maverick tried to pick the pace up to try to get away from him, but Mark was, you know, it was hunting him down like a shark chasing down a surfer. Like, it was not going to end well. And in turn 3, he came into the corner and got on the gas, and bang, he had the most violent high side I have seen, you know, in MotoGP in probably a couple years. The rear tire just let go and spit him off. Dovey, who was in 4th at the time, was right behind him when he saw it happen, and he said it happened so fast. He said like there was no time to react, nothing. The bike just basically said, we're done, and he kicked him off. So he went over the bike into the gravel trap, and then the front wheel of his Honda CV hit him in the right arm and actually fractured his right arm. And he's actually was, you know, one of the few times you actually saw Mark in a lot of pain. So he ended up not finishing the race. Fabio won his first ever MotoGP race, which is, you know, it is a big thing winning your first Grand Prix. Maverick finished second. Dolby finished third. And after the race was over, all the racers were just saying how tough it was. They were racing, the track temperature was 62 degrees Celsius. Now, track temperature is different from air, because like you could have the temperature outside could be like 30, 32 degrees, 34 degrees. But on the track, because of the sun heating the asphalt, it just becomes a giant heat sink and just gets to be so hot that it just becomes unbearable. I've experienced that back in my racing days. It's just it's on really hot days, it's just horrible. So the riders actually were getting burns in their hands from just the heat coming off the bike. Some of them were losing feeling in their arms and fingers from just the heat and trying to hang on, because the hot temperatures, they were you know, they were just suffering really badly. So with this race coming up on this weekend, we'll see if they're going to make some changes. I don't know if maybe they might knock a lap or two off, or maybe start it earlier in the day to try to see if you can get by with some little less heat. But I think the big mistake was, you know, having the race here at the time of the year when it was just, you know, the reason they can race there in April is because it's like a semi-desert environment, and so it actually warms up faster than the rest of the northern parts of Spain. So I think it might have been better to put this towards the end of August than as opposed to right when it is now, but what's done is done. Now, as for Mark, today he actually had successful surgery on his broken arm. There was concern that he would have had nerve damage, because where the break was, they were concerned that maybe the nerve might have been damaged, but apparently it wasn't, so he should heal up. Normal heal up for a broken arm that's been plated is about 6 weeks, but this is MotoGP and Marc Marquez, and they're suspecting he will probably be ready for 2 races from now. Well, actually, I guess 3 weeks from now, which is the race in the Czech Republic in Brno, because let's get the right gear, because they're racing this weekend and they have a week off, and then they're in Brno. So he may be back. Will he be able to race for the win? I doubt it. I figure if anything, he'll probably just be happy finishing, you know, if he could get on the podium, it'd be awesome, but more likely he'd just be thrilled just making the you know, the top 10 just to get some points, because he's going to lose 50 points by DNFing the first race, and he's missing this race this weekend. So now, another thing I didn't mention was Cal Crutchlow had a crash in Sunday's warm-up, and he had a concussion. So he was declared unfit to race, and then after he had to lay down for like 8 hours or whatnot, and to have the symptoms of the concussion disappear, which apparently they did, because it was a pretty bad tumble. And what happened was he noticed his wrist was sore, and he went back to the clinic, and they looked out and they discovered that his scaphoid was broken, which is the little bone in the wrist right by the you know, where the V is in your fingers. Just sort of draw a line back, it's sort of right there, and that's one of the bones that helps support your wrist, especially on motorcycles. And it's a horribly difficult bone to heal. It has very poor blood flow, so generally, as a rule, it won't heal very quickly, if at all. It sort of depends on your health and, you know, the genetics of your body. So hopefully he'll be back for this weekend. I know he's going to try. Alex Rins had the surgery on his shoulder, so he's supposed to be good to go to come back and try this weekend. So we'll see what happens. So hopefully that's all the injuries now for a while. I'm not hoping for any more, or we're going to end up with a very severely depleted racing teams. Anyways, hope you enjoyed it. DeathsStalker signing off.